One older child stepped forward, a girl slightly taller than Star. Her glow was more controlled, more stable. She seemed to be a leader among them. She approached Star, placing her forehead gently against Star's. The two shared a silent, emotional connection that made Star's glow pulse. When the older girl turned to Evan, her expression changed. It wasn't fear. It wasn't anger. It was confusion. A human had brought one of their lost children home. Evan slowly raised both hands to show he meant no harm. "I'm not here to hurt anyone. I'm here because she needed help." Star walked over to him quickly and held his arm tightly, her eyes pleading with her people to understand. The older alien girl widened her eyes slightly. She reached out and touched Star's forehead. A small flicker of light appeared, forming a soft image in the air. Star being found in the forest, Star trembling in fear, and Evan kneeling gently in front of her. Another image followed, Evan holding her close during the long night, shielding her from the hunter, whispering comfort. The alien children watched the glowing story with quiet awe. When the image faded, the older girl looked at Evan again. She stepped closer, slowly, cautiously. Her hand reached for his chest, hovering just an inch away. Evan stayed still. She placed her glowing hand over his heart for a moment. A silent message passed between them. Not words, not images. Just understanding. Evan felt warmth spread through him, not from her light, but from something deeper, gratitude. The older girl nodded softly, accepting him. Star's glow brightened with joy. She ran to Evan and hugged him tightly around the waist, her small arms squeezed with all the strength she had. Evan wrapped an arm around her shoulders carefully. "You're safe now," he whispered. "I promised you." But their safety lasted only a moment. A thunderous roar echoed outside the cave entrance. The children gasped. Some ran behind the glowing rocks. The older girl raised her hands defensively. Star tightened her grip on Evan's shirt. The hunter had returned, furious, relentless, refusing to lose its prey. Evan stood tall. "I won't let it in." The older girl stepped beside him. More alien children gathered, forming a circle. Their lights grew brighter, mixing together. Star moved to the center of them, her tiny hands glowing with the softest, bravest light. Evan knelt beside her. "Are you sure you want to help?" Star looked him in the eyes with deep determination. She placed her glowing hand on his cheek, her silent answer clear. "You protected me. Now I protect you." The children's combined. Glow filled the cave, brightening the walls until everything shimmered like a rising dawn. Outside, the hunter scraped its claws angrily against the stone. Inside, the alien children raised their hands together. A hum began soft at first, then growing louder, stronger, fuller. The cave itself seemed to awaken. The older girl pointed at the entrance. Star nodded. Evan stepped behind them, ready to protect them if anything broke through. The hunter roared. Again, Star took a deep breath, silent, steady, brave. Then she released her light. A burst of pure silver brilliance shot through the cave and out of the entrance like a beam of hope. The other children's glow joined hers, turning the beam into a powerful wave. Outside, the hunter screamed a metallic, angry cry before being pushed back by the force of their combined light. Evan shielded his eyes, stunned. When the light dimmed, silence fell. Star collapsed from exhaustion, and Evan caught her gently before she hit the ground. He held her close, whispering, "You were amazing. You little star." Her tiny hand lifted weakly, pressing against his heart one more time. "We are not alone anymore." The cave glowed softly after the powerful blast of silver light. Dust floated in the air, and the walls hummed like they were breathing. Evan held Star tightly, her tiny glowing body limp from exhaustion. Her light flickered weakly, like a candle fighting to stay alive. The alien children gathered around her. Their eyes were full of worry, but also full of pride. They touched Star's hands gently, as if thanking her for being brave enough to lead. The wave of light, Evan brushed Star's silver hair softly. "You're okay. I've got you." Her eyes opened slowly, tired, but still shining. She wasn't afraid anymore. She had her people. She had him, but the peace didn't last long. A sudden earth-shaking slam hit the cave entrance. Everyone froze. Then came another slam. The hunter hadn't been destroyed. It had only been pushed back. And now it was furious. The children gasped and backed away. The older alien girl, their leader, stepped in front of them and raised her hands again, preparing another light wave. But her glow was dimmer this time. All the children looked drained. They didn't have enough strength for another blast. Star struggled in Evan's arms. She tried to raise her hand to glow again, but she was too weak. Her light flickered desperately, like she wanted to fight. But her body said no. Evan shook his head, holding her tighter. "No, not again. You're too tired." She shook her head weakly, trying to push his chest. Her trembling fingers were saying, "We can't stop now." But Evan placed his hand over hers. "You already did more than anyone could ask. Let me take this now." Her eyes widened, fear and disbelief mixed together. She shook her head. Again. Evan smiled softly. "You gave me a home when I had none. You gave me something to protect. You made me realize I was never truly alone. Now it's my turn." The cave shook again. Slam. Dust rained from the ceiling. The metallic roar echoed deeper into the cave as claws tore at the stone. The entrance began cracking. The alien children screamed silently. Star reached for Evan's hand, grabbing him with all the strength she had left. Her glow turned into a desperate pulse. "Don't go." He knelt beside her, pressing his forehead gently against hers. "I'm not leaving you. I'll be right here, but I won't let them hurt you." She squeezed his fingers, tears forming. In her glowing eyes, another crash. The cave entrance split open. A massive, armored claw appeared through the crack. The hunter forced its way inside, growling with mechanical rage. Its visor glowed blood red, scanning every glowing child. Then stopping on Star. It knew she was the one who had attacked it. Evan stepped between them instantly. "Not happening," he growled. The hunter roared and lunged. Evan grabbed the brightest glowing crystal from the cave wall, a kotu. The hunter roared and lunged. Evan grabbed the brightest glowing crystal from the cave wall, a living crystal vibrating with alien energy. He didn't know what it was. He didn't know how to use it. But when he held it, it pulsed in sync with Star's glow. Her people gasped. The older alien girl pointed at the crystal, then at Evan, her eyes wide with realization. The crystal responded. To emotion, specifically. To protection. Star reached weakly toward him. Her tiny glowing hands touched the crystal. Her light mixed with his warmth. In an instant, the crystal erupted in a brilliant white beam stronger than anything the children had created alone. The light wrapped around Evan's arm like a shield, glowing with Star's heartbeat. The hunter slashed. Evan raised the crystal shield. The two forces collided in a blast of light and metal. CHRONICLES. The hunter was thrown backward, smashing violently against the cave wall. Its armor cracked open, sparks flying. It roared in pain and tried to rise, but the light pushed it down again. Star, though weak, lifted her hand and touched Evan's back. Her glow strengthened the beam. The alien children stepped forward one by one, placing their hands on each other's shoulders, sending their small bits of light into Evan. The cave turned into a storm of silver brilliance. Evan shouted as he pushed the crystal forward with all his strength. "For Star!" The beam exploded outward. The hunter screamed metal, fury, and darkness tearing apart under pure united light. One final blast, boom. Then silence. The hunter collapsed and didn't move again. The light faded slowly. Evan fell to one knee, breathing hard. Star crawled toward him weakly and placed her head against his chest. He hugged her tightly. "It's over," he whispered. "You're safe now." She lifted her face, eyes glowing softly, and pressed her small hand over his heart. A silent message. We saved each other. And for the first time in his life, Evan believed it completely. A sharp metallic scratch dragged across the wooden door, slow and cruel. The sound crawled through the cabin like a cold whisper. Star whimpered softly, the first sound of fear she had allowed herself to make. Evan pulled her into his arms. "It's okay, I've got you." Another scratch. This one deeper. Then the doorknob moved. Just an inch. Enough to show intention. Evan held his breath. The knob turned again. Star gasped silently and hid her face in his chest. Then dash nothing. Stillness. Evan waited. 10 seconds. 20. A minute. The air felt heavy, like the creature was still out there. Thinking, listening. But the doorknob didn't move again. Evan slowly exhaled, though he knew the danger hadn't passed. The hunter was not gone. It was simply waiting. Star lifted her head and pointed to the floor. She tried shaping a glowing image with trembling hands. The particles formed slowly, weakly. She was scared and tired, but she wanted him to understand. She was scared and tired. Glowing shapes formed a forest, a hidden path, a cave. More glowing figures like her. Her people. Her message was clear. We need to go. They can protect us. We can't stay here. Evan nodded gently. We'll go. But we have to wait until the creature leaves. Star touched his hand with both of hers. It was a soft, desperate touch, one that said she believed him, even when she was terrified. Hours passed. The cabin stayed silent. Star eventually fell asleep against Evan's chest, still holding his shirt tightly. Her glow softened into a calm shimmer. She looked peaceful for the first time, but only because she trusted him to keep watch. Evan ran his fingers gently through her silver hair. "I won't let anything happen to you," he whispered. The truth hit him then. He didn't feel lonely anymore, not even a little. This tiny alien girl, this frightened child who had lost everything, had filled his empty world with purpose, warmth, and something he hadn't felt in years. Belonging. She wasn't just someone he protected. She had become the reason he wanted to keep fighting. Outside, the hunter finally stepped away, its heavy footsteps fading into the darkness. But Evan knew it wasn't gone. It was coming back. And next time, he would have to do more than hide. He looked down at Star sleeping against him. "For you," he whispered, "I'll face anything." Morning arrived slowly, with pale sunlight touching the cabin walls. But the gentle light did not bring peace. It only showed Evan how damaged everything was. The cracked door, the claw marks, the broken silence that once comforted him. Star was still asleep in his arms, her tiny body curled like a frightened kitten. Her glow was faint but steady. Evan didn't move. Not yet. She needed this rest. She had fought fear all night. But he knew one thing clearly now. They couldn't stay here anymore. He brushed a hand through her silver hair gently. "Star, wake up, little one." She stirred softly, blinking into the morning light. When her eyes found his, they softened, safe, warm, trusting. She sat up slowly, still holding his shirt with one hand as if she feared he would disappear. Evan smiled softly. "I'm here. I didn't leave." Her glow brightened. She raised her hands and created a small light image, this time clearer than before. It showed the same forest path, the glowing plants, and the cave where her people hid. Evan repeated firmly, "Yes, we're going there." Star nodded quickly. She slid off his lap and stood on the floor, still weak but determined. Her tiny feet made no sound as she walked to the window and peeked through the curtain. She checked the forest with careful eyes. No shadows, no movement. No hunters out for now. She turned back to Evan and lifted 2 fingers, pointing to the trees. Then pointing to him, urging him without words. "We must go now." Evan grabbed his backpack and stuffed it with the things he had prepared earlier: water, food, a map, extra clothes. He also wrapped a thick scarf around Star so her glow would be softer and harder to see. When he tied the scarf gently, her eyes widened in surprise. She touched the fabric like it was something magical. "It's just a scarf," Evan chuckled. "But it looks cute on you." Star blushed, her glow turning warm and rosy. He opened the back door a little. The air outside was cold. The forest felt watchful, like the trees themselves knew danger had walked between them. Evan held out his hand. "Ready?" Star hesitated, only for a breath, then placed her small hand in his. Her fingers curled around his gently, trusting him completely. They stepped out. The forest path was quiet as they moved through it. Star walked close beside him, matching his steps, eyes scanning everything with alert focus. She had learned fear, but she had also learned courage. Evan whispered, "If you hear anything, signal me." She nodded. They walked deeper into the forest, following the glowing plant Star had shown him. They led the way like tiny lanterns. The air grew cooler, the trees taller, the shadows thicker. After nearly an hour, Star tugged on his hand. She pointed ahead, her eyes bright with recognition. The path, the one from her memories, "We're close?" Evan asked. She nodded quickly, excitement and fear mixing together in her glow. They moved faster. But then, a sudden echo shook the trees behind them. Not a cry, not an animal call, a mechanical roar. Evan froze. Star grabbed his leg, shaking violently. The hunter had found their trail, and it was coming fast. Evan scooped Star into his arms. "Hold on." He ran. The forest blurred around them. Twigs snapped under his feet. Star clung to him with both arms, her scarf slipping slightly. Behind them, the ground thundered with heavy steps. Closer, closer. Evan's lungs burned, but he didn't slow down. Star raised her hand and formed a glowing line in the air, showing him the direction, guiding him through the maze of trees. "Right. Okay." He turned right sharply, crashing through bushes. Another roar. Louder. Star whimpered and buried her face into his shoulder. Evan whispered through panting breath, "It's okay. We're almost there. Don't be scared." Star suddenly lifted her head and pointed ahead with urgency. Evan saw it. The entrance, a crack between rocks, a cave glowing faintly. Her people, her home, her safety. He pushed himself harder. The hunter burst into view behind them, tall, armored, roaring in hunger and fury. Star screamed silently, her glow flashing bright. Evan dove into the cave entrance just as the hunter swung its metal claw. WM. The strike hit the rock, shaking the ground but missing them by inches. Inside the cave, dozens of small glowing figures appeared, just like Star, their lights rising like stars in the dark. They surrounded Evan and Star with a soft protective glow. The hunter roared outside, blocked by the narrow entrance. Evan collapsed on his knees, breathless. Star slipped out of his arms, turned to him, and pressed both glowing hands to his heart. Her silent message was clear. "You saved me. You're not alone anymore." And Evan finally believed it. The cave glowed softly around them, filled with warm silver light that floated gently through the air like tiny stars. Evan had never seen anything like it. The walls shimmered as if made of living crystal, and the floor hummed lightly under his boots. It felt less like a cave, and more like a sanctuary. And in the center of this gentle glow stood the ones he had only seen through Star's tiny light images. Her people, small, fragile, glowing children. Like her, some looked older, some younger, but all shared the same luminous eyes and silver hair. Their expressions carried both wonder and fear as they stared at the human who had just run into their hidden refuge with one of their most precious. Star stepped closer to them, her glow brightening with relief. A few of the alien children rushed toward her, touching her gently with glowing hands, checking if she was hurt, if she was scared, if she was still alive. Evan watched quietly. This moment wasn't his to interrupt. An endless sunset. Evan stared in awe. That's where you're from. Star nodded. The image shifted. The colors darkened. Shapes appeared tall, shadow-like figures. Not clear, but frightening. Evan could tell from the way Star's glow dimmed that these figures meant danger. She hugged the blanket tighter, her tiny body shaking at the memory. Then she showed herself small, running, alone. Evan felt his throat tighten. She had lost her world. She had lost her people. She had lost everything, and she had arrived on Earth with no voice, no protection, and no one to trust. Until him. The image faded. Star's glow flickered weakly, as if the memory drained her. Evan reached out slowly and placed his hand near her close. Enough to offer comfort, not close enough to pressure her. She looked at his hand, then at his face, then gently placed her small glowing hand on his fingers. Soft warmth passed between them. She wasn't just telling him her past. She was telling him she trusted him with it. Evan swallowed hard. You're not alone anymore, Star. You're safe. With me. Her eyes softened, shimmering like silver water. She pulled her hand back shyly but leaned closer to him, just an inch. To her, that inch meant everything. Evan smiled softly. Thank you for showing me. But Star suddenly looked toward the window again. Her glow dimmed. Her fingers curled nervously. Evan followed her gaze, listening carefully. The forest outside was silent, too silent. No crickets, no rustling, nothing. Star hugged the blanket tighter. Evan lowered his voice. Is something out there? Star didn't answer. She didn't need to. Her glow flickered like a heartbeat of fear. Evan stood slowly and checked the lock on the door. Everything seemed normal, but he knew better now. Silence meant danger. Something was watching. Something searching. He returned to Star and sat closer to the couch. Whatever it is, he whispered, it won't touch you. Not while I'm here. Star looked at him, and in that moment, her eyes held something new, not fear. Hope. She reached out one more time and touched his wrist again. But this touch was different. It carried a message even without words. I believe you. Evan felt the warmth of her trust settle deep inside him. His loneliness, the thing that lived with him for years, felt smaller, lighter, almost gone. Star didn't just find a human. She found the one human willing to protect her with everything he had. And Evan didn't just save an alien girl. She was saving him too, in ways he didn't yet understand. The cabin felt quiet, almost too quiet. Star sat curled on the couch, her silver glow dim like a fading candle. Evan felt the atmosphere change the moment she looked toward the window. Something in the forest had shifted. Something unseen, but very real. He stood up and moved slowly to the curtains. He didn't open them, just listened. The wind had stopped. The crickets had gone silent. Even the trees seemed to be holding their breath. Star's tiny fingers clutched the blanket, her eyes reflecting the faint firelight. She wasn't shaking, but Evan could tell she was remembering something she wished she could forget. He returned to her side, keeping his voice calm. Star, is something outside? She lowered her head slightly. Not a nod, not a shake, just a soft, sad movement that told him enough. She knew danger the same way a child knows the shape of a monster hiding under the bed. Not by sight, but by fear. Evan sat beside the couch, closer than before. Are the shadows you showed me the same ones? Star's eyes widened. Slowly, she raised her hand and created a tiny flicker of light. Instead of making a picture like before, she made a small trembling motion, as if the light itself was scared. Evan understood. They're looking for you, aren't they? This time, she gave a tiny, heartbroken nod. Evan's chest tightened. This child who had already lost her world was still running, Still hiding, even here on Earth. He gently touched the edge of the blanket. They won't get you, not while I'm here. Star blinked, her eyes filling with a soft shine. She leaned a little toward him, the way a child leans toward safety without realizing it. But the quiet outside changed again. A faint crack echoed in the distance. Evan froze. Star stiffened instantly. Her glow dimmed so quickly, it almost disappeared. She curled into herself, burying her face in the blanket. Evan lowered his voice. It's okay. Stay close. He walked to the window again. Still no movement. No shadows, nothing. But just because he couldn't see danger, didn't mean it wasn't there. Star made a tiny sound, a soft exhale of fear. Evan turned and saw her holding her hands together tightly, her small shoulders trembling. She wasn't just scared. She was remembering the day she ran. Evan knelt in front of her. Star, look at me. She lifted her head slowly, her eyes glistening. You're safe here, he whispered. You don't have to face anything alone anymore. Star studied him quietly. Then she reached out and placed her glowing hand against his chest, again right above his heart. A warm pulse spread from her touch, gentle and emotional. It wasn't a message this time, it was a question. Are you truly staying? Yevon held her hand carefully. Yes, I'm not going anywhere. Her glow brightened slightly, soft and warm. But the forest did not agree. Another crack. Closer. Then a second one. Louder. Evan stood quickly. Stay here. Don't move. Star reached for him with both hands, panic rising in her eyes. She shook her head violently. He stepped closer to reassure her. I'll be right here. I'm not leaving the cabin. She relaxed only a little, her hands still trembling. Evan grabbed his old flashlight, feeling how thin it was compared to the threat outside. He positioned himself near the door, listening with full focus. Silence. Then Dash crunched. A heavy footstep. Star gasped silently. The blanket slipped from her shoulders as she slid off the couch and crawled toward him, her tiny glowing hand grabbing the back of his shirt. He rested one hand on her head. I've got you. A shadow passed across the curtain. Star's glow flickered quickly, like a light overwhelmed by darkness. Evan felt fear run through him, but he tightened his grip on the flashlight. No one's taking her, he whispered to himself. Another shadow moved. Slow. Searching. Star pressed herself against his side, her hands shaking uncontrollably. She lifted her face to him, and in her eyes he saw the truth. She had been found before. She had lost everything once. She could not survive losing. Someone again. Evan knelt and wrapped his arm around her small frame. I'm here. I won't let them hurt you. The shadow outside stopped. Silence returned. But not the calm kind, the dangerous kind. Star buried her face into his chest, and Evan realized one thing deeply. She wasn't the one who was alone anymore. Now he had someone to protect, and he would fight the whole universe if he had to. The cabin was silent, but it was not the peaceful silence Evan once knew. This silence was tight, sharp, and full of warning. Star clung to his shirt, her tiny glowing fingers trembling. Her silver light flickered nervously like a small flame fighting against a storm. Evan tightened his arm around her, steady and protective. He could feel the fear in her body. But he also felt something else, something strong, something new, his own determination. He wasn't just responsible for a child now. He was responsible for her, the little alien girl who trusted him more than she trusted her own memories. Another slow shadow moved across the curtain. Star froze. Evan's heart thumped hard, but he leaned closer to her and whispered, I'm here. I won't let anything touch you. She lifted her face slightly, her silver eyes wide and scared, but also searching for strength in his words. A soft sound came from outside. Not a growl, not a step. Something worse. A deep, mechanical breath like a metal beast inhaling the scent of its prey. Star pressed her forehead against Evan's chest. Her glow dimmed almost to nothing, as if she was trying her best to hide her presence. Evan gently tilted her face up. "Stay behind me. Whatever happens, don't run." She shook her head quickly, refusing to leave his side. Evan couldn't help it. He let out a soft breath. "All right, but stay close." He grabbed the flashlight again, not because it could stop anything, but because holding something made fear feel smaller. The metal felt cold and useless in his hand, but it was better than nothing. Another sound echoed outside. Crunch, crack, breathe. The hunter was right at the door. Star's glow shrank into a tiny point. Her whole body curled behind Evan, her fingers gripping his arm with surprising strength for someone so small. Evan lowered himself slightly, preparing for anything, even though deep inside he knew he stood no real chance. But he also knew he wouldn't step aside. Not tonight, not ever, then. Evan Hawley lived a life that most people would describe as peaceful, but to him it was simply empty. His small wooden cabin sat on the edge of a forest, far away from the noise of the cities and the rush of human life. From the outside it looked calm, birds singing, leaves moving, sunlight touching the ground softly. But inside, Evan carried a quiet loneliness that he never told anyone about. He had no family left, no friends nearby, and no reason to expect anything new to happen in his life. Days passed in silence, nights passed in silence, and Evan had learned to live with that silence, even though he wished for something, anything that could fill the empty spaces in his heart. But one evening, everything changed. Evan was sitting on his porch, watching the sky turn orange as the sun slowly went down. The forest was quiet, except for a soft breeze brushing the leaves. It was the kind of evening he usually enjoyed. Calm, predictable. Then he heard it, a very faint sound. A sound so soft and light that he almost believed he imagined it. A whisper. A hum, a tiny cry. He stood up slowly, his ears focused on the forest. The sound came again, a little clearer this time. It was fragile, almost like a child trying not to be heard. Evan grabbed a small flashlight and stepped toward the trees. "Hello?" he called gently. "Is someone there?" No answer, but the soft cry came again. He followed it deeper into the woods, moving carefully so he wouldn't scare whoever it was. The light from his flashlight touched the bushes, the roots, the branches. And then it stopped on something small. Something glowing. A tiny figure sat on the ground, curled up tightly, her knees pulled to her chest. Her skin glowed faintly like moonlight, and her silver hair covered half her face. She looked like a child, small, fragile, alone. But she wasn't human. She was an alien girl. Evan froze, not in fear, but in shock. She didn't look dangerous. She didn't look like a threat. She looked scared, so scared that her whole body trembled. When she sensed his presence, she slowly raised her head. Her big, glowing eyes met his, and Evan felt something inside him shift. There was deep sadness in those eyes, deep fear, and something else too. Something gentle. He knelt down slowly so he wouldn't frighten her. "Hey, it's okay," he whispered. "I won't hurt you." The little alien girl didn't speak. She didn't even blink. She just stared at him with the kind of fear that came from losing everything. Evan noticed she was shaking badly. Her tiny hands were pressed against the ground like she was ready to run at any moment. She looked hungry, exhausted, and lost. He placed the flashlight on the ground and showed her his empty hands. "You're safe. I promise." She looked at his hands, then at his face, then back at his hands again. Her breathing slowed just a little, enough to show she understood. "Are you hurt?" Evan asked softly. She shook her head once, very slowly. "Are you alone?" This time, her eyes dropped to the ground. She didn't nod and she didn't shake her head. But the sadness in her face answered for her. Evan's heart tightened. This child, alien or not, had nobody. "Come with me," he said gently. My cabin is close. It's warm there. You can rest. She hesitated. She looked at the forest behind her, then at Evan again. A small, scared breath escaped her lips, and she stood up. She wobbled at first, almost falling, but quickly regained her balance. Evan extended his hand, not to pull her, just to show she could take it if she wanted. She didn't touch his hand, but she took a small step toward him, then another, and another. Evan smiled softly. Good, that's good. You're safe with Ma. As they walked back through the forest, she followed closely behind him, her glow lighting the path more than his flashlight did. Evan could feel her fear, but he also felt something else. Trust, fragile, new but real. When they reached the cabin, she paused at the door. She looked at him with her big silver eyes, unsure, scared, yet hopeful. Evan opened the door gently. You're not alone anymore, he said. For the first time, her expression changed. Just a little. Just enough. A tiny spark in her eyes, as if his words reached a place inside her that had been empty for a long time. The little alien girl stepped inside Evan's cabin as if she were entering another world. The warm light from the fireplace filled the room, and the soft crackling sounds made the space feel alive. For Evan, this cabin was ordinary, but for her, everything seemed strange, new, confusing, and maybe even comforting. She stood near the doorway, her tiny glowing hands held close to her chest. Her silver eyes wandered slowly across the room over the books, the old wooden furniture, the small kitchen, and the cozy couch. She looked at everything like she wasn't sure if she was allowed to touch anything, or if she belonged here at all. Evan spoke softly so his voice wouldn't scare her. You can sit, you can rest. This place is safe. She didn't answer. She just continued looking around carefully, like she was learning what a home felt like. For the first time, Evan moved toward the kitchen and poured warm water into a cup. He placed it on the table and stepped back so she wouldn't feel pressured. It's okay, you can have it. The girl slowly approached the table. Her steps were small, unsure. She lifted the cup with both hands. The warmth surprised her. She held it close to her face and breathed in the steam with a quiet, trembling sigh. For the first time since he found her, she looked less afraid. Evan smiled gently. Feels good, right? She blinked up at him, her silver glow softening. After a moment, she pointed to herself, then touched her chest. Evan watched carefully, trying to understand. Was she trying to tell him her name, or maybe something about her? He knelt down to her level. Do you want to tell me something? She hesitated, then raised her glowing fingers and made a gentle movement in the air. Tiny particles of light formed and joined together, just like before, but this time they shaped something simple, a small, bright circle. Evan frowned softly. Sun? She shook her head. He tried again. A light? A star? She nodded slowly, her eyes softening. Star, Evan repeated. Is that your name? The girl blinked twice, then gave the tiniest nod. Evan's heart warmed. Star, that's a beautiful name. The little alien girl Star touched her chest again, confirming it. Her glow brightened a bit, as if she felt happy he understood. Evan sat on the floor across from her, giving her space but staying close enough that she knew he wasn't leaving. Star, you must be tired. Do you want to sit on the couch? It's soft. She looked at the couch unsure. She gently touched the fabric with her fingertips, then slowly climbed onto it. Her small body sank into the cushions, and she looked up at Evan with a mix of surprise and relief, like she had never sat on something soft before. Evan handed her a blanket. You can use this, it's warm. Star held the blanket like it was something precious. She wrapped it around herself and leaned into the corner of the couch, her silver glow shining softly beneath the fabric. Minutes passed in comfortable silence. She watched the fireplace, her eyes reflecting the flames. Evan watched her, realizing she wasn't just a visitor. She was a scared child who had lost everything, and she chose him. But then Star's expression changed. She looked toward the window. Suddenly, her glow dimming a little. Her fingers tightened around the blanket. Evan noticed instantly. "What is it? Did you hear something?" Star didn't speak, but she lifted her hand and made a tiny shaking motion. It wasn't fear of the cabin. It was fear of something outside, something she remembered, something she escaped, something still searching for her. Evan moved closer to the window but didn't open the curtains. He listened. He waited. The forest was quiet. Too quiet. He took a slow breath and returned to Star. "Whatever you're scared of, it can't come inside. You're protected here." Her glowing eyes softened. She slowly reached out and touched his wrist, barely lightly, like a whisper against his skin. It wasn't a full touch. It was a question. "Are you really staying?" Evan nodded. "I'm here. I won't leave." For the first time since entering the cabin, Star relaxed fully. Her glow warmed. Her tiny body leaned slightly toward him in a gesture of comfort. And Evan realized that loneliness, the loneliness he carried for years, was slowly fading. Because of her. This little alien girl didn't just need him. He needed her too. The night deepened outside the cabin, and the forest slowly disappeared into darkness. The wind brushed gently against the windows, but inside, everything felt warm. The soft glow from the fireplace mixed with Star's silver light, filling the room with a calm, peaceful shine. Evan sat on the floor near the couch, close enough to comfort her, but far enough to respect the fragile trust she had given him. Star sat wrapped in the blanket, watching him the same way a scared but curious child might watch someone who had just become important to her. She didn't speak. She didn't make a sound, but her eyes, they spoke everything. Evan took a slow breath. "You're safe here, Star. You can rest." Star lowered her head slightly, as if trying to believe him. Her silver hair fell forward, glowing softly like moonlight. She touched the blanket, then looked around the cabin again. She seemed to be studying the idea of safety, testing it the way someone tests a new feeling. She had lived in fear for so long. Safety felt strange to her. After a few minutes, Star slowly lifted her hand. A tiny glow formed above her palm, gentle, soft, like a warm star in the dark. She shaped it into something small. Evan leaned forward carefully. "Are you showing me something?" The glowing particles shifted and formed a small shape of a planet, her home. It was bright, full of floating lights, with swirling colors like